So we do look at the data. We always look at our data. We look at who our audience is. We look at where the audience is coming from, right? 25% of our audience is international, outside the United States. The average age of the audience, and how do we know what marketers want to buy in the non-endemic space. How do we give it to them? We know that one of the major trends is social. Some of the trends are social, video, fandom, gaming. How do we move into those areas so that we can take that money off the table too? So we're looking at both.
Welcome to the Marketing Rapport, a podcast created for and by marketing professionals who seek to better understand their consumers and design unique, personalized experiences that stand out in today's market. In each episode, hosts from Verisk Marketing Solutions connect you to industry thought leaders, practitioners, and experts focused on improving B2C experiences through powerful data-driven insights. It's about how we connect with our consumers and where we can partner together to do it better. This is the Marketing Rapport.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Marketing Rapport podcast. I am Tim Finnigan, and I head up product marketing for Verisk Marketing Solutions, where we predominantly help brands with consumer insights, their data challenges, their identity challenges. And today, I've got a special guest, but I want to back up because if you've listened to this podcast, we really focus on a lot with measurement and data and identity and analytics. But I really wanted to talk to someone that can take a step back and look more of it as a strategy, from marketing strategy, brand strategy, media marketing strategy. So I'm lucky enough to have Dea Lawrence on the podcast today. And there's a couple firsts happening. I've never had anybody that won an Emmy. I've never had that. I've never had anybody that had their own IMDb profile. I have that today. But Dea is currently the Chief Operating and Chief Marketing Officer at Variety. Welcome to the podcast, Dea.
Well, thank you for having me, Tim.
You're welcome.
Clearly, let me just start by saying,
okay, go ahead.
If you have not spoken to anyone with an IMDb profile, because almost everyone walking the streets of Hollywood has an IMDb profile. Okay.
I don't even think I
haven't spoken to anybody. I mean, everybody I know has one. So.
I think I even may have gotten the letters mixed up in there, but you're the first. Well, I did talk to someone from Second City in Chicago.
Okay.
I will give you, I've never told anybody this, but in between jobs when I was very young, I decided to be an extra to make some extra money. And I was an extra in Baby's Day Out, if you remember that one from back in the day. Who was even in that? Joe Pantalone. I forgot how to pronounce his name.
I love him. He's such a good actor.
And what was the Woody Harrelson? What was the Woody Harrelson movie? It was his first movie, Natural Born Killers. You can find me in that as well. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Well, Dea, instead of talking about me, let's talk about you. I really want to start off if you could just sort of share not only your journey of like your personal transformation, but how you transformed Variety into what it is today.
Yes. Okay. Well, let me start by saying I did not transform Variety alone. Okay. There's a large team of people at Variety, all very passionate, highly engaged. We have an amazing CEO, Michelle Sobrino Stearns, and really, she's been at Variety for a very, very long time. She gets the credit for transforming Variety. I am her number two, and I have largely helped. We also have Ramin Satuda, who is our co-EIC, along with the fabulous Cynthia Littleton. Both of them are geniuses that have really led to this transformation of Variety, along with people that have worked in the past. So it's a team effort. I didn't do it by myself. I don't want to take credit.
Always a team effort.
Always a team effort. So, well, I guess I will start. Should I start with my personal transformation?
Yeah, please. Would love to hear that.
Okay. So I always say, don't look at me as career pathing, but I was a professional actor for many years. And then I always sold on the side because I like to shop. I am a consumer. I love being a consumer. I love being a capitalist. and I never wanted to not have money. So I became very adept at becoming a salesperson. And even when I was doing 8 shows a week in New York City, I was always selling. I sold the third largest, I was the head of sales at the third most expensive condominium building in Manhattan. I sold cosmetics. I sold all kinds of things. So when I came to Hollywood to become a movie star, I didn't become a movie star, in case you don't know that. I did work as a professional actor. It is very difficult to become a movie star, and that's not really a goal. But I always sold, and I got very fortunate. I was so lucky. And I always say, you don't really see your luck sometimes until the years go past, and then you can look back and think, oh, well, I really didn't like doing that job, but wow, thank God I did it. So I was very fortunate in that I got hooked up with someone who was a writer-director who ended up putting me in his movie. That was my first paying job in Los Angeles. It was a second lead in a film. Very lucky. And he also hired me to work on his business. And so he had a business called the Hollywood Creative Directory. And what I did was I helped take the Hollywood Creative Directory into bookstores. It was a guide as to who does what in Hollywood. It was the keys to the kingdom. And, for $50, you too could have the keys to the kingdom. So we put it in bookstores, and then I digitized it and came up with the subscription online strategy, which then led me into learning about the internet in a very nascent stage. Then the business was sold to iFilm, which was a precursor to YouTube. This is how far back we're going. Mm-hmm. And I became the director of marketing there because I asked the question, I don't understand how this place makes money. Can someone explain it to me? And they thought I was smart. And it was sort of like, make her the director of marketing. So I got lucky, and I learned a lot about the, digital advertising. Then I went to Variety the first time, and I was still the whole time doing ER, guest starring, doing commercials, doing a sketch comedy show, going out of town and doing regional theater, coming back. And then I went to Variety and I built up their business. And so that has led me now to the first time I worked at Variety. And in terms of shifts in the industry, so for my personal shift, it was going from being an actor to digital advertising. For Variety had a daily paper, a Gotham paper, a weekly paper. We're talking about a newspaper that was delivered 5 days a week, plus once another time in New York and another time nationally. So those are 7 papers plus dailies. When I went to Variety, they had no digital revenue. None. I think they had $400. And I was like, oh, I think there's a missed opportunity here. So I built up their digital business. And when I saw that, we were trying to get everyone engaged in selling digital, the business was owned by Reed Elsevier, and they were committed to print. They kept saying they were committed to digital. And at this point, digital was this is where all the hot jobs were. I got recruited away and I went to Point Roll. And Variety went through a very dark phase. It's not a secret. The business just started collapsing because they were not prepared to take on digital, and other players came nipping at their business, like Nikki Fink and Deadline, which was owned at a certain point. Jay Penske acquired it. So Variety's first, that went through a very bad time. And then thankfully, Jay Penske came riding in on his horse. It's the night, and saved the business. And one of the things that he did was bring back other people that had left to help rebuild this business. So Michelle brought me back to Variety at a certain point after I worked in ad tech. So the next shift in Variety's iteration was to become digital first and really get focused on that. So they got rid of the daily paper. Imagine how expensive that is.
Which, Dea, I can imagine how hard it was for you trying to, like the first go round, to talk them into it, because I'm sure their margins were really good with the paper or the print publication. And you're coming in and saying, let's we need to have a digital strategy. So what? So
Right.
go on with your story, but I would love to know, like, so.
Jay Penske was the one that said, we're not going to do a daily paper. And by the time I came back, they had already switched to a magazine. So the next shift here, since I've been here, and has been what in this time frame, all this programmatic came in, right? So getting direct digital buys. Now our business is mostly, not mostly, but a large part of our business in the past was FYC, which is for your consideration advertising around the Oscars, the Golden Globes, the SAG Awards, the WGA, the Emmys, right? But we also have this consumer business, which is our non-endemic business, because we have a very large audience. So then, which is 30 million unique visitors a month. So once we went from going digital first, we then have to figure out, how do we get a younger audience, right? So this is another shift. We need a younger audience. What are we going to do to get that younger audience, which is focus on video, focus on social? So then we started building up this social audience. One of the things that I saw when I first came back, so I've come back, this is my second time at Variety, is that the sales team was giving away social, added value, digital, added value. Yes, there were some digital packages being sold, but mostly they were selling events, giving away all of this. So there's a value. And the very first thing you have to do is, first of all, understand your product, understand the value in the marketplace, make sure that the product is aligned with sales and marketing. And that is what we did. And then we started selling social. We had to get to a place of what else are we going to sell here? Because remember, the print was still, you don't remember this because you didn't know this. So it's not that remember. What everyone should understand is that Variety still does very well with print. People are still buying print. Our print was up 11% every year. I mean, that's unheard of. In places that magazines are just collapsing, Variety's print is still very strong. So we needed to diversify our business. And we started doing that by figuring out a stronger events strategy and building up this events business, charging for our social, continuing to build up our traffic. And that was done through editorial, so that we have over 13 million social followers and 30 million unique visitors a month. We are the number one entertainment news brand. No one has as much traffic as we do outside of like People magazine, which is not quite doing what we do, right? So our traffic is bigger than Vanity Fair. That's a little known secret, I think, that we need to get out there. But we have a very strong audience. We have sort of these two audiences. One is the B2B, and the other audience is fan audiences. So tapping into fandom was another shift in our business. Shifting to go after more consumer, non-endemic advertising.
So Dea, how do you balance sort of like intuition versus hard data? Because you had talked about,
intuition,
hey, we needed
data?
to get younger. Get younger. Like, how do you balance that as CMO of this feels right versus this data looks right?
Well, I mean, we don't want to have, you always have to be thinking about the next generation. So next year, Variety is turning 120 years old, right? How are we going to keep, the question that I kept asking was, how do we keep this very old brand young? How do we make it look fresh and new so that it's not, oh, that's Variety, So we do look at the data. We always look at our data. We look at who our audience is. We look at where the audience is coming from, right? 25% of our audience is international, outside the United States. The average age of the audience, and how do we know what marketers want to buy in the non-endemic space. How do we give it to them? We know that one of the major trends is social. Some of the trends are social, video, fandom, gaming. How do we move into those areas so that we can take that money off the table too? So we're looking at both. Intuition. When I used to sell ad tech and data, I remember an advertiser said to me, I buy from my gut. And I thought that is not a good answer, right? Okay. I wouldn't keep doing that. I would look at the data, because when you're trying to find people, obviously in certain pockets of the United States, or people that have certain demographics, or, people who want to buy movie tickets, it's better to look at the data. And I think that's something that the movie industry in particular, has not done a particularly effective job of, right? These theater chains, they don't really have data. And at any rate, the studios now do, but I think that
did you make the sale?
no, that particular content did not, because they bought from their gut. They bought the Village Voice. It's like the Village Voice.
Who needs that? So
yeah, I think they're a business. Okay.
So Dea, as when you talk about the brand being over 100 years old, right?
Yes.
I just spoke last week to someone at Procter & Gamble who manages the Gillette account, and their brand's over 120 years old. How do you keep it? You mentioned maybe a little of it, but I would be really interested, how do you keep it relevant? Besides just digital or social, like what are some things that you're doing to say, hey, this brand is cutting edge, it is what you need? What are some things that you're doing?
Well, we've done a lot. First of all, the content. It all starts with the content. So this last weekend, we did our Hitmakers event. So we do a list of the 50 top hitmakers in the music industry, and we throw a very, very insider brunch where we do an award show. We get some of the top talent. We gave an award to Charlie XCX and Jack Antonoff, and we had Lana Del Rey, and we had, Ray, and we had just so many of the hit makers that will attract a new audience to Variety. So we blew open music. That was an area that we built up this incredible music vertical. We have top journalists in the music industry, and we went after the audience that way. And then with the film and television industry, we do a lot more with celebrity interviews, but more from, when I say celebrity interviews, I don't mean like, who are you dating from the industry perspective, but there's still a lot of fan interest in that. For example, we have a show called Actors on Actors, which has won a number of Emmys, where we have contenders during the awards season. We do it twice a year, once during Emmys, once during Oscars. Actors are interviewing one another, right? So we get a Cynthia Erivo sitting down with Pamela Anderson. These are people who are both up for awards, talking about the craft of acting. That is one of our tremendous audience. More people watch Actors on Actors than watch the Oscars. So we have our finger on the zeitgeist. We have excellent journalists here that know what people want to read about and what people want to watch. So we really built up our video in order to get pieces going viral, engagement, and we focused on that. So that has been extremely successful for us.
So Dea, like when we, and like the more of the B2B side, when we talk about knowing your customer, it's like, where do they live? What are their likes, dislikes? It sounds like you really understand who the consumer is, and you're supplying them the content, and you know what they're interested in. I want to pivot a little to when you had talked about more you as a leader, like when you started in your career, and I think I was the same way. I started in sales, and you sort of work your way up. How do you balance this new workforce that wants to be a vice president within 2 weeks, or wants things different, and they're moving so much?
Wants to stay home. How about that? They want to stay home and do their laundry.
That's what they want to do. I know. It was like when
that's not our team. Our team doesn't do that. We have a very hardworking team.
So what's your sort of your leadership style?
So that's a very good question, because I have spoken to many people who are leaders, and everyone seems to be having a generational challenge. And that is, people from my generation, we always understood there was a hierarchy and that you had to put in your time. I mean, especially when I was an actor, we used to call it paying your dues. You have to pay your dues. You have to pay your dues. And I think that I don't even think people understand what that means anymore. I think there is this assumption that, well, I've been here for a year now, I need a promotion. Like there's this assumption that every year you're going to get promoted. Of course, we want to promote people. We want people to learn more and to be engaged. And we appreciate ambition and we want to foster that ambition. But in an organization, it is not simply possible to promote people every year and to move people on this fast track up to being a vice president. And what I would say to anyone is, whatever it is that you're doing, make sure that you're the very best at it and that you have fully invested yourself in where you are before you start looking to go to the next step. The next thing that I've heard a lot is, well, I'm not learning. I mean, I don't like this part of my job. I only like this part of my job. So I just want to do this. I want to do A and not B. And I always say, oh, me too. There's so much that I don't really want to do on my job, but I kind of have to do it. It's like if 60 to 70% of what you are doing is of interest to you, you have a fantastic career because life is mundane, and for the most part. And yes, there are exciting moments and there are terrible moments, but it's not always going to be exciting and thrilling. And the fact that you have exciting moments here is great. You're already winning. So
Dave,
yeah.
Great answer. And sorry to interrupt. I liked what you said about originally when you were looking at, you had mentioned trends that you're looking at, sort of
Yes.
make those decisions going in the future. What are you keeping your eye on for as we go into 2025?
Gaming and sports. So we have to keep diversifying, right? We want to keep diversifying our products so that we're getting revenue streams are coming in from, like, let's say e-commerce. E-commerce is very important to us so that we're not solely dependent on selling advertising or selling subscriptions, right? There has to be a diversified revenue stream coming in. So e-commerce is very important to us, but we have had such tremendous success in music that we now feel that we can move into some other areas. The gaming industry is, I mean, so much larger than the film and television industry. And the business of gaming is an area that we are stepping into. And we have been stepping into it from an events perspective. And we're going to continue to do more next year with the gaming industry and with sports. So we do have, within the Penske portfolio, we have the advantage of being able to partner up with some of the other brands like Sportico, for example. We do our sports and entertainment summit with them, and we would like to do more in the sports area because of that crossover.
With all that, with everything that you've got going on and your vision for 2025, how has the impact of, like, the new technologies impacted what you're, like, the evolution of these technologies? Yeah. Like how is that impacting what you're doing on a daily basis?
So that's fantastic. Well, first of all, we try not to use AI. We have writers and they write their own stories. They're not using AI. So what we love about all the new technology is that it gives us something to write about, right? That we can do. We do a lot of summits, we do a lot of thought leadership, because Variety is show business, right? We have two audiences. It's about the business of entertainment, but it's also about the show. But the business of entertainment is our core business. So we do so much thought leadership, dinners, summits. We'll be at CES. We do entertainment marketing. We do entertainment and technology. We're going to do an AI summit next year. So all of this, and just what we write about, like how AI is affecting the craft of movie making. So this is all fantastic.
I love that idea of, like, we're not going to just say we're thought leaders. We're going to do something and create this, like you had talked about, a summit or these conferences that shows off our thought leadership. So how do you, I'm so interested in, like, what you do on a daily basis to sort of drive that expansion and what keeps you going to do the next big thing? Or is it we're we're just going to expand slowly into a couple things. Like, how do you balance like trying to do
Well, that's a
everything
great question.
versus doing a little?
Yes. Okay. So really good question. So let me give you a few examples of that. So we do so much that it can be a dizzying experience. Like when we have new hires come in, I think they think, oh, variety. And I always say in the job interview, don't think we're this old timey newspaper. Okay. Because when you come here, we're going to see how fast paced this is and how much we're doing. And I think people are taken aback. Like I can see deer in the headlights when people first come to Variety. So what our strategy is always start small and then build on it, build on it, build on it. It does not work for us. And we have seen other organizations fail when they go in and say, they put a big stake in the ground and they say, oh, we're going to go to the Cannes Film Festival and we're going to do an enormous party and we're going to do, we're going to sponsor 10 screenings and we're going to do something huge, something big. We're going to go to Cannes Lion and rent a yacht. And, you have to start small and then see, are you going to be able to monetize this and get a healthy margin on it, right? Because that's really important to us. I want to just state again, Variety is an extremely profitable business. We are the most profitable of any entertainment brand and any entertainment news brand. And this is one of the reasons why we're so profitable. We're extremely smart about what we do and how we spend our money. So we start small. We just had a conversation with a festival. It's a thought leadership film and TV festival, music festival. And they're wanting us to come in a big way. Well, we're not coming in a big way, because we don't know that we're going to be able to sell this. We don't know who's going to attend it. We're going to come in a very small way, build it, and then next year we'll make it a little bigger, and then we'll build it from there. And that strategy works for us. And it's also, we can do things small because we're exclusive. It's about who we get in the room, right? We get studio heads and people that people want to be with.
Yeah, I'm just that's such good advice, because I'm thinking back to what we do at Veris Marketing Solutions as far as like events. Same thing, we'll be at CES and it's like you need to balance how much you're sponsoring, like what's the value that you're getting back. Do you have a speaking engagement? Is it thought leadership? Or does it just make sense to have sales reps there trying to make connections and just go and talk? So this has been a great talk, but I've got one more question for you. I did mention you were an Emmy winner. You were executive producer. What was that experience like, and what did you get?
Let me just tell you. I tell this to everyone. I'm going to just tell you honestly. Okay. I have done a lot in my life that I felt that I deserved an award for, but I did the least amount of work and won an Emmy. Who knew it was that easy? So I have to say. So let me explain. We have. What my part of winning this Emmy is that I structured a deal with A&E, right? So we have a development deal with A&E, and we take a variety of product to market. And I've spent an enormous amount of time developing 2 other television shows that never made it to air. This one, we just took our IP and said, okay, well, let's do a special based on one of our on our IP event that we do called Power of Women. And we'll do a TV special around it. And guess what? It was so easy. He did it and produced it. And then all of a sudden we got nominated for an Emmy and then we won. And so what's lovely about this is that my mother has an Emmy on her piano in Connecticut.
Beautiful. And I think we're the same person, because I have plenty of things that I think I should have won awards for. And have
yes.
So I'm with you on that.
I really feel I should have won many, many other awards.
Dea, I find you so interesting from where you started and wanting to and sort of that sales background. I think that is such an important thing for young people. Like, get that background of sales and showing how you can do it and have that drive and sort of the forefront of digital strategy and taking all that experience into Variety. And it's been cool to hear about. So we're at our end, that we've gone way beyond what I told you. It's been so interesting. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Marketing Report. This show is brought to you by Verisk Marketing Solutions, an organization created to help CMOs and their partners improve the reach, timing, relevance, and compliance of every consumer engagement. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you subscribe to the Marketing Report wherever you get your podcasts, and check out the show notes for more information.